Okay, greetings. I'm Dion Ingram. I'm president of the BPOA of Los Angeles County. And with me, I have my fellow board members, Carl Lumpkin, who's a historian, Elise Norman, who's the treasurer, Jerome Gage, the sergeant of arms, or sergeant at arms, and Ermina McKelvey, who's the secretary. And welcome to 10 Questions with BPOA. Today we have Robert Luna, who is one of the candidates for Los Angeles County Sheriff. Chief Luna will start. We will start with you having 2 minutes to introduce yourself. You will then be asked 10 questions. For each question, you will have a 2-minute time limit to respond. At the conclusion of the interview, you will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. We'd like to remind everyone that participation in this interview was not an endorsement on behalf of BPOA towards any of the candidates' candidacy. And with that being said, let's begin.
Okay, I think that's my cue to get going. I'm honored that you allowed me this time with all of you. And I'm running for LA County Sheriff. I'm running for LA County Sheriff because I want to restore public trust and reform the Sheriff's Department. The current sheriff, in my opinion, has created dysfunction and chaos, which has put our public safety at risk. And I just believe we can do so much better. I'm the only candidate in this race who doesn't come from the Sheriff's Department. As a Long Beach police chief for the last 7 years, I have led the second largest police department in Los Angeles County. I have been accountable to our public, our community, and have taken responsibility for the actions of my department. I have led the department towards community-centered police policies and practices modeled by the Task Force on 21st Century Policing established by President Obama. The Long Beach community has come together to support these policies, and I look forward to being able to implement them in the rest of the county. The most important part of being elected as a sheriff is to listen and building relationship, and this is what I'm best at. This is what I'm going to do first as if I'm elected to sheriff. My 5 priorities for the Sheriff's Department: 1 is to restore public trust, reform and modernize the department, reduce violent crime, address homelessness, and improve deputy and employee wellness. I will also do everything I can to eradicate any gangs that are in the Sheriff's Department. Real quick about me, I grew up in East Los Angeles to an immigrant family. Both parents were immigrants. We were patrolled by the Sheriff's Department in an unincorporated area. So I saw a lot of examples of bad policing. That's where my foundation is. But you know what? It taught me about equity. And that's why I'm such a champion for justice, because of what I witnessed and personally experienced as a kid. I have a reputation for problem solving, listening, and being able to work in partnership with our community. And I have earned the endorsement of federal, state, and local leaders in Long Beach, including Mayor Robert Garcia. And I would be absolutely honored to earn your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Luna, my name is Carl Lumpkin. Who are your 2 greatest influences and why?
You were a little choppy. I think I heard my top influences and why.
No, sir. Who are your 2 greatest influences and why?
Okay. Number 1, my mother. She has passed. My mother had a 3rd grade education, and I consider her to be the smartest person I've ever met in my life. She taught me work ethic. I call it immigrant work ethic. No nonsense. Just, hey, work your butt off and do the best you can. That's number 1. Now I switch to policing. Charles Ramsey is my mentor. He's somebody I call on a constant basis. If you're aware of his leadership and what he's done in law enforcement, it's amazing, because as a person of color, I look to him as another person of color who brought a completely different style and basically telling people, hey, policing needs to change. And he's done a lot of that himself. And he continues to be very involved with major city chiefs, which I'm still associated with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If I can ask all of my counterparts to mute their computers until you're actually in the speaking role. We're getting a lot of feedback. Thanks for joining us this morning, sir. We really do appreciate your participation. If elected sheriff, what steps would you take to ensure the Sheriff's Department is actively involved in encouraging and fostering the recruitment and promotion of qualified African-American candidates within the department?
Number one is to come in on day one and absolutely expect it and set a standard that this is the way it's going to be. We need to get people involved in our recruitment and hiring. And I'm not only talking about law enforcement, I'm talking about reaching out to our community partners. This county is so diverse that we need to go out and make sure that there are people that are creating basically the guidelines for what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and then report out. If we're falling short in certain categories or numbers, why? What are we doing wrong? In Long Beach, it's been frustrating. I can tell you we've done well, but not good enough. So we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what are we doing, where are we not going? And it includes things like going to grade schools and start very, very young with our communities of color. And but a lot of that is based on trust. As we know, specifically in communities of color, we have a lot of people, including my own family members, who don't trust the police. What are we doing? Where are the gaps? And we have to fill those immediately and just make sure we get the right people doing the right thing. And then we have to hold people accountable if it's not happening, including myself.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. And the next question is going to be,
I'm sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Okay, my question, sir, is if elected sheriff, how will you create partnerships with the local entities, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, et cetera, to facilitate positive working relationships between the community and the Sheriff's Department?
Open the door, listen, go out there, be accessible, be visible, and it takes a lot of work. You got to roll up your sleeves, and you got to have a skill base to just like people and care about people. And I hope all of you have asked other people about Robert Luna, who I am, what I've done in Long Beach, because my body of work speaks for itself. In our community, and all of you know, Long Beach is extremely diverse. Not only as a police chief, but even as a police officer, I was always getting out of my car, engaging people. When I became the North Division commander up in North Long Beach, the first thing I did when I was having murders and shootings that were leading the city, I went to the faith-based community and I got people together. And we started working collectively. I opened the door. They had access to me. Even on weekends, I attended church services. I am a community person. And you know what? I don't do it because I'm faking it. Law enforcement is my ministry. I am a man of faith. And when we talk about providing or in service of others, to me, it's not a logo. It's who I am. And whether I'm elected sheriff or not, that's who I am, that's who I've been, and that's who I will continue to be. That's I'm going to call it an attitude for the lack of a better term. You got to bring that to the table, and people feel you when you do that. And that's how you build relationships, and that's how you maintain relationships, because in law enforcement, eventually something's not going to go well. What credibility do you bring to the table? When you're wrong, hey, I'm wrong. I don't hide from it. Admit you're wrong, accept oversight, because you know what? at the end of the day, it is about our oath. We took an oath to do this job. And if we're following that oath, our law enforcement code of ethics, then we should have amazing relationships with everyone in our community.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My question is, what is your position and strategy on issuing CCW permits to our civilians?
Although I support it, it makes me nervous. There are a lot of guns out on the street. And I have to make sure as sheriff that if we are issuing CCWs, that one, we have a very extensive process to do backgrounds to make sure that only people who are don't have, whether it's some criminal histories, mental health histories, or anything like that, and that we're not doing it for political favors, right? That somebody can get it because they donated money, that you hear happens, but we're doing it for the right reasons. And then the second part of that is, how do we follow up? If we decide we're going to issue somebody a CCW, whether it's a year later or no more than 2 years later, to do another background. Have they qualified with the weapon? Did they commit a crime? Were they involved in did they have a mental episode or something that happened that was anti-government or something where we can pull that? But it has to be managed. But I believe in issuing them, but very, very tight management controls over them. You got to have the staffing to do that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, sir. Our question is, what are your hobbies?
That's a very good question, Jerome. You know what? I always tell people, because they ask, hey, how do you survive as a police chief? And I have 3 F's, my faith, my family, and fitness. Although you look at me right now and I don't look probably like I work out more than 5 times a week, but it's the way to get my mind off things. Some people have invited me golfing. I've never golfed in my life, but just spending time with my family. I got to be honest with you, as a police chief in Long Beach, any spare time I had was spent with my family. I made sure that I was doing my church activities and then my workout time. I do sneak in football. I hope nobody holds this against me, but I've been a Pittsburgh Steelers fan since I was a little boy. And I've gone back to Pittsburgh to watch them play. Yeah, I am following the Rams now that they're in the Super Bowl. But I do watch football. When my son was in high school, he played at Pauley High School. He played football there for the 4 years. And I'll tell you what, I only missed 1 game the entire 4 years. That was a hobby of mine. So as you can tell, it all surrounds my family, my kids. Yeah, I'd like to tell you fishing and all that other stuff, but I haven't had time. And I think I've got to get a little bit better at that. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
So recently, the Commission of Peace Officer Standards and Training implemented bias and racial profiling training to acknowledge and help law enforcement officers understand how implicit bias, stereotypes, and racial profiling impacts the community. As a career law enforcement person, how do you think implicit bias has affected the law enforcement community?
If you were to ask me what the priority is in law enforcement today, I would answer it that it's regaining public trust and legitimacy. And the question you just asked about bias hits that 100%. Because let's be honest, and I'm preaching to the choir, the reason I got into law enforcement was because my neighbors, my family did not like the police. I wanted to change that. There was something driving me where I wanted to wear that uniform. And I have spent my entire life being an advocate to make sure that policing is viewed from a different perspective. But I got to tell you, I retired on December the 31st. And within a week of me retiring, driving my personal car, I got pulled over in the city of Los Alamitos. And I'll tell you what, man, the jitters I had, and I've been a cop for 36 years, but I remember, and I've had bad experiences working undercover as a cop. So racial profiling to me is not just what Post puts out. It's not policies. It's something I've lived. It's something that my family has lived. And this is why I love this profession. And I know there's gaps and there's a lot of work to do. There is so much work to do. And people like ourselves, understanding our backgrounds, our histories, have to be advocates, not only externally, but internally. And again, if you asked about Robert Luna, sometimes I wasn't the most popular guy in my department because I challenged the status quo of why we did what we did. And then just quickly, if I run out of time, just stop me. Before I left the department, we developed a law enforcement history class. And it was hard for me to get somebody to teach it, but I had one of my commanders, Mel McGuire, teach it. And what it did is it taught our employees what the history of law enforcement was in our communities of color. So that if you go to a meeting or you go to an African-American household or a Hispanic household and you get treated differently as a police officer in uniform, you understand, man, there's some history there and it's not good. And we have to understand that in order to bridge that gap. You can tell I'm very passionate. I could go off for an hour about this topic because it's not just a policy. It is our profession and it goes back to our oath. And we have an obligation to make sure that our own employees understand. And you guys know this, 100% of our employees do not understand that. And as the sheriff, I'm going to do everything I can, including bringing a history class like that and many other things, using my connections throughout the country to make sure that we are addressing these issues.
It's your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And if I talk too much, man, just cut me off. It's not a matter of disrespect. I have a bad habit of going on and on.
I think the next question is yours, Elise.
What is one of the things about yourself you wish you could change, sir?
One of the things about myself I wish I could change.
Yes.
Wow. Let me think for a quick second. I'm definitely not a perfect man. Only one man walked this earth was perfect. I would say that I have overcommitted to my work and didn't always spend the time with my beautiful wife and my 2 children. And although I'm blessed, they have come out amazing. There were a lot of things I missed. Although I told you I missed only 1 football game, I went through heck, man, to get to all those games. But when my daughter was younger, she was involved in a salsa competition group, and I missed some of those. I was too focused on work. And I know moving forward, much broader responsibility. My kids are older. My daughter's 32 now. My son is 20. He's in college. He's an attorney in New York City. And grandchildren and all those things. It's going to be hard, but I will not miss that. And if I could change that, I would have spent a lot more time with them. You can't get that back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You're muted, sir.
I keep muting myself.
Oh, trust me, I do that all the time.
All right. My question is, what do you believe is the biggest change the LA County Sheriff's Department needs to make?
I believe the number one change is the sheriff himself needs to fix or not continue to fracture relationships. Because when you hear him on TV, and again, this is my opinion, he's taking extreme views on issues, and it's really impacting the working force. It's working the relationship, negatively impacting the relationship with the community. And one of the things I talk about is, as a police chief or a sheriff, one of your primary responsibilities is to maintain very good relationships with elected officials, government officials, community members. Whether you agree or disagree with any of their issues, you were put in that position to problem solve. And you cannot problem solve by calling people names, by not being able to work out issues. Now, I have an excellent relationship, or I did in Long Beach when I was just recently retired, with my mayor, city council, government officials. I would say probably 97, 98% of my community, because I was respectful, because I collaborated, because I was a good partner. I don't believe that police or sheriffs can accomplish anything on their own. They have to utilize the resources in the community. The community is your biggest asset if you use them properly. The first thing I will do is go in there and start repairing relationships. It's going to take a lot of time and effort, but I'm not going to be that, hey, I don't like what you're telling me, so you become my enemy. Or I think I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm going to shut you out. I tell you what, I am not the smartest guy in the room, and I'm humble enough to admit that, you know what, this is so complex, I need help.
That's your time, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, can you tell us about your biggest failure on the job, and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, as I talked about my body of work in Long Beach, and the advantage I believe I have over the other candidates is I'm the only one who's actually run a large municipal police department, which means I was accountable to a community, a council, a mayor. And in a big city like Long Beach that is diverse and progressive and complex, things always don't go well. And there are times that issues come up, and they're out there. And this is what I always tell people, whether it was about an issue regarding Tiger text or other issues that have come up regarding force. I've always been a leader who stood in front of cameras or my community and said, you know what? We screwed up. We did something wrong. I never blamed employees, even though somebody may have made a mistake, because at the end of the day, I held myself accountable. But this is what you'll know about Robert Luna, is Martin Luther King has a famous quote that how do you really judge a person's character? And that is by the way they act when they're under adverse conditions. That's paraphrasing, it's not the exact quote. And that's what you see about anything I've done, is that I can always come back and say, yes, I admit I made a mistake. This is how we're going to fix it. That's how we're going to report it back to the community. And you don't try to fix the blame, you try to fix the problem. I know that's more of an overarching to your question, but there is stuff there, but please look at the way I handled it and say, hey, is that the way I want my chief or my sheriff handling issues?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, sir, your last question. How has your life's work prepared you for the position of Los Angeles County Sheriff?
Man, from my journey as a kid in East LA, I'm that kid who was grabbing onto the chain link fence, looking at cops in uniform, police officers in uniform, going, I want to be just like them. But you know what? Even though my family, because we didn't speak English, were treated very poorly. Even when I went to the free clinic to try and get medical help, we weren't treated well. I used a lot of that negativity and I said, hey, how do I change that? And even at the police department, when I experienced negativity, I always persevered. And that's why I started promoting, because it's like, hey, if you want to change something, then you start doing it yourself, right? And that is very important. My 36 years in Long Beach PD, I'm blessed. I had amazing jobs. I started to promote. Sometimes I didn't do well, but it never stopped me. I tried again. And at the end of the day, a combination of my experience, my education, and just what I've been through at work, and that's professionally, just personally with my parents, and everything I've dealt with has prepared me not only as a successful chief in Long Beach, but now for the biggest sheriff's department in the country. And I am absolutely 100% ready for that job. And then please cut me off if I'm going too long. I was voted twice. I was actually elected and then reelected as the Western Region representative for the Major City Chiefs Association. That meant I was responsible for 9 states and 20 cities. So my relationships across this country, because of Major City Chiefs, because of PERF, because I was the board chair for JRIC in LA County, I can summon so many people. And I'll tell you what, people are already calling me and saying, hey, if you get elected, we want to help you turn around this department. And it's people from across this country, because everybody knows this department's on not a very so good trajectory right now.
That's your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir.
So on behalf of BPOA and our members, sir, thank you for sitting down with us for 10 questions with BPOA. I'd like to remind people again that this is not an endorsement from the organization. This is simply an opportunity for the candidates to speak with our membership and introduce themselves, and our membership to learn a little bit about the candidates. So thank you, sir, for your time. We appreciate it.
So I believe I have a couple of minutes. I'm sorry.
Yes, you get 3 minutes to close.
Yeah, I want to thank each and every one of you because it's Saturday morning and you have your normal jobs, and then you're doing this on the side, and you're doing it because you care. You're a cut above, and I'm very humbled to be in front of each and every one of you. I love what you guys are doing. I really respect what you're doing. And please note this, as you are considering a candidate to support, I hope I have earned your endorsement, your respect. Please do a thorough background on each of us, who we are, what we stand for, because several years ago that wasn't done and a rash decision was made. And I think, I don't care if you work for the sheriff's department or not, we have a not so good leader in LA County sheriffs. It impacts all of us in law enforcement, not only in this region, but across this country. So please look at the, if I am, or evaluate if I'm a valid candidate for this race, and how I stack up against the other candidates. And it's not always about who you like, it's who they are, their background, what they bring to the table, and at the end of the day, who the voters will vote for and who can beat the guy who's in that race now. And either way, no matter what happens, either I'm retired, and if any of you ever need anything from me personally, you have questions, you want to talk about mentoring or coaching, you want to talk about moving around in departments, promotional opportunities, please consider me a friend, somebody who loves this profession and loves everyone who wears a uniform. And I want only the best to move us forward. So you have a friend in Robert Luna. Thank you very much. And I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you spending your Saturday morning with us, and good luck with your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right.
You guys have a blessed day.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day, sir.
Bye,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.